Hello everyone, I'm Steve from Valhartv, and today I'll be reviewing House of the Dragons Episode 3. So this episode takes place 3 years after Episode 2. We see that Viserys has a 2-year-old son named Aegon, second of his name. So this is basically the opening sequence is really preparing for his name day. But we also get to find out that the war for Daemon and the snakes, the sea serpent, is not going so well. As the king starts to find out, but he's also trying to look for his daughter, who does not like the fact that he married her best friend, Alicent. And we see that Alicent's also pregnant in this. So, again, 3 years have passed, and a lot of stuff has happened off screen. We do get to see a little bit in the beginning where Daemon gets shot with an arrow as he's trying to take on the Crabfeeder. And as we go along in the episode, we see that like Otto Hightower and some others kind of prey on the king's superstitious nature. He believes in like pretenses, like foreshadowing type stuff where like divine providence comes in. They say that they've spotted a white hart stag, who's the king of the woods, and it's the symbol of royalty before the Targaryens came. So we see that he's kind of like wavering, being like, oh, did I make a mistake in some of the stuff I believed because I had a dream about a son who wore the crown of a conqueror. And so he starts to question things, but Rhaenyra, excuse me, she is very angry about everything from the past 3 years, about Alicent, and then she's got a brother now. There's another child on the way, and she just feels like she's not part of the decision making, and she's really not, because even though she was named heir to the throne, she's still treated as just a girl. And, again, in this type of society, it's usually the men who rule and the women who do the childbearing. And, we see that even in our own history, that's not always the case. Like, we had Queen Elizabeth for 70 years over in England. So, we see that women can do it, but she's also being pressured into getting married, and she doesn't like that fact either because she feels like she's just being a pawn for her father and all the other nobles playing politics, and again, she has to, she understands, but she doesn't at the same time that it's kind of the way the world works at this point, and her father's not trying to like pressure her into stuff, but he's also got a lot of marriage proposals now that she's of age to marry, and he's trying to do what's right by the kingdom as well. But both of them are very frustrated, and he even tells her that he's not above duty either. They have to marry, whether it's for love or political reasons, to be able to further the crown's wants and needs, and it really shows that she's just like, no, I don't want this because I'm the heir and you are going to just replace me like you did Daemon. And in a way, she's right. That's kind of what actually everybody's been pushing him to do, because he actually has a son now, firstborn son, and it's typically in this setting is always the firstborn son who gets to rule. So he tries to assure her later on in the episode that he's not going to do that, but I feel like he's made a promise he can't really keep. And then when we do cut back to the war with Daemon and them, it's really not going well, and we can see that in the way that everybody is very frustrated. All the men are just fatigued. They're worn down because the crab feeder has burrowed into like this area where there's a whole bunch of caves that they just, and the stepping stones that they just keep running back into when the dragons come, and then running out when the soldiers come, and then they shoot them with the arrows, and they, and the foot soldiers, and it's not going well. So the king finally decides to send aid to his brother to help, and his brother just freaks out about it because he's like, this war was started by me and the sea serpent, and now it's going to get stolen from me. So he goes over under a false flag of surrender and everything, and is basically just on a suicide run. It's really actually cool because he's just like, I'm just going to do whatever I want now because it doesn't matter if I die. And he just, boom, he just starts taking out guys left and right, and he's dodging arrows. I mean, it was, dude, when Matt Smith is on screen, everything just jumps right up in this series. Again, he's basically the one carrying it. Rhaenyra, though, in this episode was actually really good. I actually liked the way she was acting, and the way she was portraying everything is that she felt almost kind of betrayed, and at the same time feeling like, I'm just going to get replaced. I was just named to satisfy something at the time, and now I'm just a political pawn who's trying to get shuffled between houses to get married off, and I don't want any of that. And it's really interesting the way she did it. So I think she did a fantastic job in this. But again, it goes to Matt Smith, though. The acting in this goes straight to Matt Smith. He just runs through everybody, and then he ends up getting hurt by like 3 arrows, and he's just like, well, I'm done, so I'm just going to go out in a blaze of glory. And it's just phenomenal. And we really get to see that he's ready to take on a little bit more of a role and stuff. I kind of feel like this episode, even at the end when you can watch inside the episode, they even like it really did kind of make things come around when they were like, this is leaving innocence behind and leaving childhood behind, and I'm like, well, Daemon was older, so he shouldn't still be a child, but at the same time he probably is, you know what I mean? He's finally getting to that point where he is going to take on a bigger role, which is, I think, going to be very interesting going forward with what's going to happen, because I also want to see what's going to happen with Viserys' son, because everybody's pushing him to name him heir. And we even get Otto Hightower, who's like, you want the marriage proposals to end for your daughter? There's only one solution in his mind. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that's where this all comes from, huh? I'm like, that's kind of weird. But we also get to meet the Lannisters. Like, one of the Lannisters is actually serving on the council for the king. But we also get to see his brother. And they're twins. So it was kind of weird. I never actually noticed that. I thought it was the same guy. But yeah, anyways. It's so he really is trying to win the king over and Rhaenyra, but at the same time, he's extremely arrogant. And he's also one of the wealthiest houses. Well, like the second wealthiest, I believe, or something like that, because in the Game of Thrones, they're like the most wealthiest. One of the two. So we really get to see that, the dynamic that it hasn't changed in like 172 years from episode 1, you know what I mean? So it's really interesting. I honestly can't wait to see the next episode. The beginning of the episode, though, it was a little too dark for me, but it was set at night, and I get it. They're trying to make things look more realistic. I really have no problem with that, but I kind of would have liked it to be a little bit brighter, so that way you could see a little more. But again, I get where they're coming from. But I thought it was really good. It shows off a lot of good stuff, and then we really get to see the dragons do their work in this, and actually I believe it's Damien's dragon, but it's the sea serpent's son who's riding it, because they're also pure-blooded Valyrians. So I thought that was very interesting and very cool, And that whole battle sequence I thought was really good, honestly. I mean, the sets are good in this. I have no issues with this episode at all. I would give this at least an 8 out of 10 easily. There were some parts that were a little slow, a little drawn out, but they're also, again, setting up more stuff because they have the big time jump in this. So let me know what you guys think down below about this episode. And if you guys like what I do, please hit the like button and subscribe. Take care for now, everyone.